YouTubers, Facebookers, wherever you're watching this platform, this transmission is being transmitted to a lot of different places, and I'm really happy that other media sources are picking this up and re-looping it and sending it through other streams. I'm very happy, and I was actually shocked and surprised to know that there's parts in Australia or even radio talk shows in Australia that are airing some of my commentary and what I'm talking about. I'm very excited about that. I'm truly shocked that anyone would take up or redistribute some of my commentary. Like I said, all my commentary and all my clips, whatever it is, all free to use. I just want to get the word out there. I don't care. I want people to know and understand what is going on in the housing market. So I'm very excited with that. That's actually pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so I got already a couple of people out here commenting. Mr. Foe is there. How are you? I hope you're doing good. And don't forget, comments are open right now. I'm gonna get a live Skype line for you guys. I'm gonna really try. I picked up a speakerphone today that plugs into the computer, and I'm gonna set up a Skype for you guys to call into the show. And hopefully I don't get a lot of crank calls. I like crank calls once in a while. They're funny, they're upbeat, as long as they're good ones. But I won't tolerate boring crank calls. But anyways, today is the 13th of July, 2017. I want to thank everyone for joining me today for Trends in the Housing Market. It is I, your humble servant, Mike Martins, and I'm broadcasting out of Merritt, BC. I want to thank everyone for joining in on Wednesday Hump Day edition of Trends in the Housing Market. And I got my coffee here with me, and I got some ice water, because this Monday that just passed, I was just dehydrated. I was so dry. I kept drinking water, then I ran out of water. I'm like, I gotta end this show before I die on air. Anyways, I got a few plugs to do here. I got my man here, Mario Detached. Mario Detached channel. You can see it here on my screen here. And this guy's really good. He's following the housing crisis, the housing market. He's been following it for almost over a year and a half now. He's really good at what he does. And he's really focused on pensions being robbed and stolen. He's really focused. He's based out of Ontario, Canada. Not Ontario, California. Ontario, Canada. And he's in Barrie area. And he's kind of got the grand scheme of things and boots in the ground on what's happening in the GTA. And what's happening up to Niagara area, up to Barrie, across to Cayuga and other parts. And he's been following what's been going on, and he's really, really targeting the pensions. Pensions are important because you work your entire life to retire. And when there's no pension left for you, I think you're toast. You know, I think people will, there's going to be a lot of problems, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm getting to that. Stefano Barca saying... or Barca, sorry, is saying interest rates went up. I got 3 articles about that, and we're gonna get to that in the show. Someone's asking me if I do Bitcoin. I did Bitcoin a whiles back. If you're on the Bitcoin topic, because this is somewhat of a finance discussion too. I did Bitcoin. I used to mine Bitcoin. I think I had 67 Bitcoins or 70 Bitcoins on a computer. And I think I sold them for just over $100 a piece, only because I remembered I had them on that computer. If I fed it, I would have sold that computer and not even remembered that. But anyways, yes. Anyways, let's get to what I want to get to. Trends in the housing market, 13th of July. Thanks for joining me. And special shout-outs going to Anthony from The Walking Journey. And let's move on. This is Mario Detached. Don't forget to check out his channel. He's not scared to get in people's face. So someone's asking me, do I see housing prices drop with the... I'm going to get to that right now. I got several articles open. So here's the first one. Boom, look at that guy's face. Do you see this man's face? Look at that. It's almost like he walked in and caught somebody, using a shower. Some homeless guy broke into his house and using a shower, and he walks in, he's like, what's going on? And that's what that look looks like right there, people. Right there, if you're looking at that look. Let me zoom in this look here. Look at this, people. You see that look? What does that look tell you? What does that look tell you, people? Anyways, let's get to what I want to say here. Bank of Canada raises interest rate for the first time in 7 years to 0.75. So, loonie gains more than 1 cent after rate hike. 1 cent US, sorry, against the US dollar, I'm sorry. Stephen Pelosi, Governor, Bank of Canada, speaks Wednesday to reporters in Ottawa about the rise of the bank's interest rates. That's a great photo to actually publicize what's going on. Here it is. The Bank of Canada has raised its key interest rates as expected to 0.75. A lot of people were ballparking 0.25%. But 7.75 is 0.25 is cute, sweet. It's nice and sweet, you know. It's a nice gesture. But 0.75, almost 1 point, is more of let's get things rolling here because the country's going bankrupt. Let's start finding a way to get things rolling. You know what I'm saying? Yes, and then Watson Estates is saying 40% chance it will increase gain in October. It's going to probably be another. Yeah, there's going to be another increase mid to late October. They're going to have a meeting about that again, and it might go up to 1.50. So people that are on variable rate mortgages, start figuring out a way to get into a closed-end 5-year term with a 5-year amortization with a 30-year term, if you can. So let's continue here. The bank's target for overnight rates at which major financial institutions make one-day loans to each other moved up 1/4 of a percentage point from 0.50%. Interest rates have finally increased. How could it affect your loans? So these are other articles here. In a statement accompanying the rate decision, the central bank said that Canadian economy has been robust, fueled by household spending, but it's spent on credit and equity in the homes. Then it goes in quotations saying, as a result, a significant amount of economic slack has been absorbed, the bank said. Adding that remaining slack is expected to be gone around the end of this year, which is earlier than the bank anticipated its April monetary policy report. Again, another article here, big 5 banks increase prime rates. The move means consumers will likely pay more for borrowings such as variable rate mortgages and lines of credit. I keep telling you about variable rate mortgages, guys. If you're up for renewal or you could negotiate with the bank or you know someone at the bank that's your friend and they're in a variable rate, try renegotiate and do something closed-end before rates get out of control. There's a lot of people commenting here. There's lots of people here commenting. The comments are alive, people. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm going to get a Skype line, a speakerphone to plug into the computer so I could get things rolling here with people calling into the show. Got quite a few people that want to call into the show and ask questions. I don't mind, like I said earlier, I don't mind crank calls, but, you know, I'll have to suspend phone calls when the crank calls get out of control. In the wake of a rate hike, the Canadian dollar shot up. They're making it seem like it went up like, whoo. They never talk about when it drops like a rock, like 20%. The loonie was at up 1.05 cents, 78.48 cents US at 4:33 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. The daily average exchange rate for Canadian dollar on Wednesday was 78.16 cents US, up 0.76 cents from Tuesday's average. The interest rate increase had been widely expected after senior Bank of Canada officials signaled in speeches and interviews over the past weeks that lower rates had done their job. So what? Okay, all right. So people have taken out free money, but who's going to clean up the mess? Are we looking at a disaster? Are pensioners going to pay off the problem or clean up the mess after the party's over? And the Canadian economy was performing well. Speaking at a news conference on Wednesday in Ottawa, Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz acknowledged that the bank raised its key rate despite inflation currently lagging below its stagnant target of 2%. 2%. Woo! Poloz said that the bank considers the weakness in inflation to be temporary. It's worth remembering that it can take up to 18 to 24 months for a monetary policy action to have its full effect on inflation. This means that the central banks must target future inflation by anticipating future deviations from target. Okay, more increases seen coming. RBC chief economist Craig Wright thinks that the bank's move signals to a turning point to a longer-term trend in raising interest rates. You know, don't you want your bank account to pay you some money? Do you remember? I keep saying this in every show. Save your money. ING Direct paying 4.5% on a basic savings account. No minimum required. $1 million pays you out 45 grand. Yeah, people, you had $1 million back 8 years ago before the rates went down. 9 years ago, you had $1 million. You were making 45 grand a year off interest. So Watson Estates is commenting on a $530K mortgage. 25.25 increase is $700 a year on a variable rate mortgage CP24 in Toronto. So, yeah, so that's basically, so now at 0.75 increase off, but the thing is, there's no Mr. Watson, there's no $530,000 mortgages. I mean, unless it's a one-bedroom condo, right? So everything's like $1 million and up. So we got to look at huge figures like $1-2 million, right? Okay, so let's get to this part of the right here. The Federal Reserve will also likely increase rates in the fourth quarter, Cooper said in a release. Look for a slow crawl upward in interest rates from both central banks in 2018. They have to do it now. This is perfect timing. Trump is in there as president. 4 rate hikes, 5, 6 rate hikes. Let's get the economy back on track. Stop pegging the economy on housing. Let's start finding and exporting and doing things. Trump is there. If it falls again, at least Trump was there to take the fall. He could look bad. It's great. This is like win-win for the U.S. Win-win-win-win-win. And with the economy performing well, the bank has also nudged up its forecast for growth this year. You know what? I hope they're right. I hope the economy is doing well. I really hope so. The bank said that real gross domestic product GDP is now expected to grow by 2.8%. In 2017, up from April outlook of 2.6%. The central bank said the growth expected to moderate over the next 2 years, coming in at 2% in 2018 and 1.6% in 2019. Okay, let's move on. Here's what Canadian real estate did after the last interest rate hike. So let's see. This is from Better Dwelling. Better Dwelling is constantly sending stuff to my email to let me know. So Mr. Watson saying, fair enough, double or triple. Oh yeah, sure. And a raise, and someone else 1% each time. If it raises a percentage, it's huge. Like on $100,000, 1% interest, you're paying I think it's $1,000 a year in finance charges, right? So on $1 million, you're paying $10,000 a year on finance charges on 1%, right? So if it goes up 4%, it's crazy. If it goes up to the normal, I don't know if you guys remember 8-9 years ago when interest rates were 4.5, 3, 4 plus prime, depending if you have a line of credit or whatnot. I don't know if you guys remember that, but yeah, people were really careful with how much they borrowed back in the day because the finance charges was mental. Declining interest rates have been contributing to the rise of the real estate across Canada. Free money, like Max Kaiser said. Ponzi. Let's keep the party going, get the champagne flowing, throw the roses to the ground, let the petals get crushed. Let's party until, let's see who's going to clean it up. Today, the Bank of Canada, the BLC, decided to raise interest rates in an attempt to stop out of control real estate price growth in Toronto and Vancouver. They should have did this 5 years ago. This got me thinking, in the past, when interest rates rose, how much did it actually impact real estate prices? Turns out, not as much as you would think. The mechanics of interest rates. So here we go. Let's get into the mechanics. Okay, people? We'll get into the mechanics. Let's give this article a chance and see what it says. Interest rates are directly tied to how much money people can borrow. Yes, finance charges on their mortgage. Slashing interest rates generally allows for a 3% increase in borrowing power by 0.25% lowered. One of our other authors showed the direct correlation between the slash of interest rates and home prices in 2015. The opposite is also true, where a 0.25% increase rates correlates to a 3% decline in borrowing. So if it's 0.75%, it's going to be a 9% decline in borrowing, technically, according to what this basic math is saying here. Not a lot has been written about the correlation of rising rates and home prices, however, so we pulled some numbers to see what we could find. Last interest rate hike was in June 2010. This isn't the first time interest rates have been hiked, but it's been a while since June 2010. Interest rates rose from 0.25% to 0.5%. 1 month later, it got another 0.75 before reaching 1% in September 2010. It stayed at that level for a few years before getting a double rate cut back to 0.5. So here it is, people. Let me zoom this out a bit so you could actually see it. There it is. So there it is here. So this is Vancouver, Toronto. And then this is after the rate, before the rates, and then it slashed somewhere around here. It went back to 0.5, and then it dipped here in February, and it's going back up. This one here, Toronto, I know, this is from 2016, so it's not showing current up to right now, because right now everything's dipping. So let's take a look here. Toronto prices stalled for 7 months. Rising rates had minimal impact for cooling prices in May 2010. The composite benchmark was 405 large. The hike was 0.5 produced at 0.59% declined in Toronto home prices. 0.75 produced a 1.14% decline. The strange thing is, the next hike didn't produce a decline. Prices increased. After a 3-rate hike, prices recovered by January 2011. But look what the house is worth, $405,000. People, finance charges on $405,000 is a lot less than $2 million or $1.5 million for a teardown. After the rate hike, prices recovered in January 2011 with prices hit $407,000. So what, a $2,000 increase in a year? So three rate hikes meant 7 months of stalling prices. Not exactly what I have expected. Vancouver prices stalled for 9 months. Vancouver real estate saw similar reaction to rate hikes in May 2010. The benchmark price composite homes were $578. After the same number of hikes, prices stopped dropping in November. By March 2011, the benchmark surpassed the May 2010 price when it reached $586,000, a couple months longer than Toronto prices stalled for. But once again, it's not quite what I expected. While slashing interest rates has fairly cleared cut relation to price increase, it appears rising rates didn't necessarily reverse the change. Every 0.25% increase interest rates does reduce borrowing power by 3%. Somehow, Toronto and Vancouver buyers found the extra money. But once again, look at the benchmark price, $578 large. If people were paying that today for a house, hey, you know what? A lot of people wouldn't be bought out of the market today. You know what I'm saying? Let's move ahead. Detached real estate prices are falling in these 5 areas of Greater Vancouver. So, prices are falling in the Greater Vancouver area. Big time. So here we go. Ladner. The largest decline for detached homes in the Greater Vancouver area, region's ladder. The benchmark price of a detached home was $975 large, a 6.4% decline. At the same time, the last year all-time high for the region was $1 million, which means we're sitting at an 8.3% drop from peak prices for the past 3 months, have shown mild increases, but still have a long way to resume growth. West Van. The other side of English Bay, West Vancouver is known for having some of the most expensive property in Metro Vancouver region. The benchmark price for a detached home was $3.1 million. And guys, West Van, people watching this in the States, watching this in Australia, watching this in London, it's nothing, it's not like Beverly Hills. It's not what you, wow, this 3 million, no, it's just like any other hood. It's like just any other. You drive down a normal, it just looks like another neighborhood. It doesn't look that out there, you know, that you would think, wow, it's going to be like Hollywood Hills, or it's going to be like West Palm Beach. It's going to be like, wow, these really classic. No, it's, you go there, it's like, whatever, I'm just here. You know what I'm saying? The other side of England, Vancouver, Metro Vancouver region, the benchmark price, the detached home was $3.1 million, a 4.4% decline from a year prior. The all-time high was $3.365, was hit in July 2016, which puts the current price at 7% decline from peak prices have rising from past 6 months. However, so is one might actually resume growth. Tawasin, the mostly residential burb located in south of Metro Vancouver, has the third largest decline in detached prices. The benchmark price for a detached home is $1.22 million, a 4.1% decline from the same time last year. The all-time high was the same time last year, so the decline peak for the same. Burnaby North, the third largest city in BC and part of Metro Vancouver, Burnaby's northern region, seeing declines over the year. The benchmark price for a detached unit is $1.57 million, a 3.5% decline from the same time last year. Peak pricing was also the same the month last year. Richmond, Canada's city with the highest immigration population, is in 5th place. The benchmark price of detached home is now $1.65 million, 2.8% decline from the same time last year. This is a 3.9% drop from all-time high achieved in 2016. The region has been seeing detached prices increase for the past 3 months. Now, for people, again, wow, look at that. Now, for people watching this in London, people watching in, oh, someone saying hi from EU, Slovenia. Hey, brother, how's it going, Alexander? Anyways, now, people watching these prices. Wow, $1.65 million for a house. Wow, $1.57 million for a house. Now, guys, you have to understand what I'm saying. House. So people watching in all these English-speaking countries. Not a plantation. Not an estate. Not a manor. Not a mansion. Not a castle. A house. A basic house is going for millions of dollars. And that's what a lot of people don't believe when some of them people watch my transmission. They're like, I'm just going to pay $3 million for a house. That's what people are paying here for it. And people say, no, location. No. There's got to be there has to be some sort of a limit. Now, I brought up this article from Better Dwelling again. They sent me this one. They asked if I could read this one tonight, and I will, because it's really good. Here's the difference between a real estate correction and a crash, so people don't get confused on correction and what is basically a crash. Despite a number of people throwing down the terms correction and crash, not a lot of people know what these terms mean. Just so we're all on the same page, we thought we'd put together a quick guide. This way, you millennials will understand what old bears mean. If you're not, so we're not thinking we're making this SHIT up. Okay, what is a real estate correction? So this is what they claim it's to be, and I believe these guys because these guys are pretty spot on. A real estate correction is relatively minor drop in the market. The market is in correction in the correction territory when the home price index falls not more than 10% from the highest price within a year. Corrections happen with greater frequency than you might expect and are generally good for balancing market demand. Okay, that's very clean cut, to the point. No Mickey Mouse words in there to throw you off and make you think something else. That's clean cut. Let's get to what is a real estate crash. A real estate crash is much less common than the media would have you think. When a home price index falls by more than 10% from a 52-week peak value, you're experiencing a crash. Crashes are relatively rare and are usually accompanied by a strong decline in economic macros. Strong declines in macros are also known as recession or depression. Here's the Vancouver's real estate price composite here. What is a real estate capitulation? Hope I read that right. Way back in ancient Rome, there was a politician, an entrepreneur named Macros, Lyncis Carcassus. Hope I read that right. He's known as the second richest man in ancient Rome Empire and the guy that took down Spartacus. A little known fact is he made most of his money owning firefighting services. When a building would catch fire in ancient Rome, he would appear soon after with the slave army of firemen and a bag of money. Homeowners had two options. They could sell their home to Caracas, who would then put out the fire, or homeowners could watch their wealthy literation burn to the ground. This is where the term fire sale originated, and it's the first example of real estate market capitulation. Real estate capitulation is an extremely rare sight to see, but it does happen. This is also known as panic selling, and is the market by more than 10% decline in a very short period of time, often less than a month. Market capitulation is usually followed by a brief pause and maybe even a bump up in prices before resuming declines. These are unlikely without a massive loss in confidence over the currency and local government. So basically, guys, if you follow the stock market or you buy and sell stocks, I do that when I get some time. I do buy and sell, trade stocks and stuff. You see a lot of panicking in the markets. You do see a lot of panicking. You see a lot of sell-offs. You see it. And that's what they're talking about there. People selling, thinking, panicking, need to cover their nut, underwater, lines of credit. What do? You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Interest rate hike could prolong Toronto's housing market slowdown, says economists. Wow, really? You just figured that out yourself? Yeah, so if you guys are just tuning in or you just came in from another planet and figuring out what's happening in the housing market, Toronto is seeing a major cool down in the last month. Prices are declining. And I had someone message me the other day, actually yesterday, saying that homes are selling, economy looks good in Toronto, things are going great. But from other people that I've been seeing and articles I've been reading, it's basically that's not what's happening, and things are dropping like a rock. Anyways, let me wet my beak here. It's hot here. The Bank of Canada interest rate hike could prolong the cooling off period of Toronto's housing market is experiencing followed the implementation of provincial foreign buyer tax, a prominent economist said Wednesday. But the recent drop of number of homes and sales in Greater Toronto Area are down 37.3% in June from the year prior is not expected to last long, said Benjamin Tal, Deputy of Chief Economist of CIBC World Markets. A similar slowdown occurred in the Vancouver area, another hot housing market following an implementation of British Columbia foreign buyers tax a year ago, but Tal said that measure hasn't deterred non-resident buyers in the market rebounding. Remember I said this on Monday's show? You're going to get a little cool down when the tax comes in, then boom, it starts to rebound. Now you're probably wondering, why would someone pay this foreign buyers tax? And I've said it in other shows. I've said this in other shows. It's cheaper to pay this 12 or 15% tax than to pay the mafia to launder your money. It's cheaper Come in, no questions asked. Buy this house, cash. God bless America. Thank you very much. You just laundered X amount of money into the market, into real estate. Sell it to your neighbor. Not your neighbor in Canada, but you sell it to your neighbor. He buys it, and then he goes ahead and sells it back to you, and then the title switches hand 12, 13 times, and before you know it, you have $50, $60 million in a bank account, cleared, free and clear, ready to be used, clean money. Cheapest way than laundering money. Believe me, you don't want to launder money through the mafia. It's horrible. It's cheaper to do it and pay the taxes. I think that's what my opinion is. You know what I'm saying? So someone says, this Stefano says, I live in Hamilton and have been checking Realtor.ca on a regular basis for months. Houses. Single detached have grown by at least double for houses listed under 400 large. Then Super Nuts is commenting here. If this housing bubble was at all sustainable, why would the bank fail or need a bailout? If the banks can't take care of themselves during a housing boom, what happens when it slows? Well, it's going to be huge defaults. I'm seeing defaults. I don't want to see defaults. I don't want to see people lose what they work for. I don't want to see people lose their dreams. But, I mean, there's two ends to a deal, guys. I mean, you got to understand, you have to be prepared to... I mean, you do the crime, you do the time, right? You got to be prepared to face the music sometime. Especially if you know you're getting into something that's going to cost you later. I mean, it's just something that happens, you know? For every reaction, there's an action. I don't know if it's a song, but it makes sense. What goes up must come down. But the recent drop in number of home sales in Greater Toronto, 37.3%, and current June from the year prior is not expected to last long, said Benjamin Tal, Deputy Chief Economist of CIBC Markets. So basically the slowdown and thing, the same thing I said last week in last week's show, Buddy's commenting it here, right here. It's on file, it's on record, you could see it, last Monday's show. We haven't seen a significant decline in foreign investment activity in Vancouver following the tax, he said. What led to be a slowdown was really more domestic buyers waiting to see what the tax will do. That's very true. I believe that. That is very true. While Toronto should follow similar trajectory, there are two other factors now at play, Tal said. We also see interest rates going up, and regulators are talking about introducing more measures to slow down the market, he said. That's why it's possible the slowdown in Toronto will be more durable than the slowdown in Vancouver. So this is a really good article, people. The foreign buyers tax was one of 16 housing affordability measures the provincial government announced in April, including expanding rent control, allowing Toronto to impose a tax on vacant homes and using surplus provincial lands for affordable housing. So Stefano's saying the average income of these areas is $60K, 60 large. With a $500,000 home, the fundamentals don't match. Yeah, it's basic math. What they were trying to do the longest time, they've been trying to tell you that 2 + 2 = 5. But the people that are awake and know what's going on take a step back and say, really? I make this much. Why would I borrow this much? If rates, I can't borrow this. I can't afford this. Walk away. But then you get the other guys, yeah, 2 + 2 could equal 5. Yeah, if I do this and I do that and I move this around and subtract 1 and add this, then you start getting into complications. And this is what they wanted you to believe the whole time, that, yeah, it's okay, take some free money, it's okay. So, the whole rumor about Montreal, read the article here. Look at that title. Look at this. Foreign buyers aren't flocking to Montreal's cool housing market. So this is what this article is saying. No, someone's fishing there. While foreign buyers drive up housing costs in Toronto and Vancouver, it appears that an increase in foreign home buyers has not have the same impact in Montreal. I think it's way too early to pull these numbers. I say give it another 5 to 6 months and pull these numbers and then get a proper reading. But let's see what the article says. Let's give the article a chance. According to the latest data from the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporations, CMHC, home purchases by foreign buyers increased 40% in Montreal in the first 4 months in 2017. The National Bank of Canada, however, recently said Montreal's homes have become the most affordable in a decade. The foreign buyers accounted for 1.8% of purchases in Montreal's metropolitan census area between January and April of this year. Notes of the CMHC's July report compared with a 1.3% during the same period in 2016. China accounts for the largest increase of origin by the buyers, but most still hail from France or the US. More Chinese buyers interested in Montreal. Last summer, BC government introduced 15% foreign buyers tax to attempt to cool its real estate market of Vancouver. So go back to what we're talking about. So the article is basically saying Montreal seeing a price increase. That's not much because last quarter, it didn't go up that much. It went up to normal levels. In Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, 76, 16, and 27% of the poll respondents rate housing as unaffordable. Yeah. Housing is something that should not be, because you need a place to live to be able to work to pay your taxes, right? And you're paying taxes on your house, and you're paying taxes on your gas, and you're paying taxes on pretty much everything you touch. So we'll keep this on the back burner, and we'll follow Montreal. So this is from Sydney, Australia. It's from tomorrow's date. Look at this. I'm reading this from the future, people. And yeah, and I'm gonna see if I could do a Sunday show. I want to see if I could do I want to do a day during the week, and I want to do a rants and lifestyle. I want to talk about all the companies that are going bankrupt, all the big box stores that are going bankrupt. I want to talk about talking what's going on in different areas that are affecting the housing market, but affecting our lives day to day. And nothing too controversial, because there's already a lot of channels that do that kind of stuff. I just want to keep it just low-key, talk, chat. So here we go. First home buyers, the new kings of the housing market. As often is the case, it appears the market has run ahead of the government's housing policy. According to the NAB June quarter residential property survey, first home buyers were the biggest players in new property sales and second in established housing. So guys, I want to explain something to you guys. I want to see if they have some numbers here. This is just talking about first home buyers. I pulled this out. There's the auction in Australia. And the housing prices in Melbourne and Sydney are beyond pricing you could ever imagine. They have a one-bedroom apartment with, I think, you have to share the bathroom on the floor or something in an apartment, going for, and has no parking, for $1 million. That's about $783,000 US for that. And seeing young people getting into these homes and stretching out their total debt service ratio. Like, you see that house right there? That house right there? That's nothing special, but that's like $3 million for that. And that's just a square house, nothing special. But this is talking more about new buyers coming into the market, first-time home buyers. And I'm shocked when I read this in Australia. I'm shocked. How can these people afford? How are these people stretching beyond their means to spend millions on a house? Let's keep going here. Okay, I got to do a plug, people. Don't freak out. This is my channel on YouTube. Don't forget to watch it. I got my trends in the housing market here that you're watching now. Starting a small business from scratch, step by step, all the steps that I took, red tape I ran into and walls. Housing crisis short clips with other people from other channels joining me. Rants and lifestyle, talking about crap. Living the Dream series. Don't forget to join me on this one. I updated it. I update it every once in a while. It's basically, I left the city, 2 hours out of the city, drive, and bought myself a gigantic house. Here it is here. I bought myself a gigantic house and on almost an acre of land with a gigantic backyard for the kids to play. Enough bedrooms for everybody. So guys, don't forget to join me on this series. It's really good. You'll like it. I'm motivating a lot of people to leave the city, enjoy the extra income, take a cut and pay, fine, but enjoy the extra income, enjoy the flexibility, enjoy the free time, enjoy the weekends off, enjoy working only one job instead of working 3 jobs to pay rent. Anyways, let's move on. Take a sip of water here. So, Danny Moore is saying, I know that now that Montreal is headed down the drain, the mafia might step in and end this. And then other people are saying, it is Toronto people moving in, traveling 3 hours a day to afford a detached home. Now have to look for homes in St. Catharines and surrounding area to afford a house, commuting 25 minutes, pushing them out. Yeah, a lot of brain drain. I've been covering this whole brain drain thing for the last 5-6 years. Doctors, lawyers, 6-figure income, people making 6-figure income can't afford to live in big cities, in certain specific cities here in Canada. They just can't afford it, so they live 2-3 hours out of the city. You know what I'm saying? Let me go here. So this is out of Auckland, New Zealand. Alistair Lewitt had a lot on his plate in the first months of his Neuricius PhD at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. He had to get acquainted with the lab, plan his first experiments, and find the places to train for bicycle road access. But as a newcomer to the city, Lewitt also had something else prying on his mind, finding a place to live that wouldn't destroy his budget. My girlfriend and I looked around for about 2 months, he says. It's ridiculous in Sydney. There are 1-bedroom apartments with no kitchen and no bathroom that you had to share with other people for 450 Australian dollars, which is 337 US a week. A week. I have to put the emphasis on the E there. From Sydney to Paris, London to San Francisco, junior researchers ran up against the same problem. Some of the most prestige or sought-after places to study and work also have the highest housing costs. Whether graduate students or postdocs are looking to rent or buy, putting a roof over their head could be the challenge of their often modest incomes. Yet, many scientists jump into PhD programs or postdoc positions without even considering local housing costs, says Emily Roberts, who co-founded the Evolving Personal Finance blog with her husband Kyle in 2014. Its sister site, blah, blah, blah. So, look at this. Room for rent. Cost of renting a 1-bedroom flat in the city center varies. Depending in the city, you will find bargains. Berlin, Beijing, but prepare to pay more in New York City and San Francisco. Holy smokes. San Francisco is like $3,200 a month for rent. Look at that. New York City, like almost 3 large for a 1-bedroom. London, holy smokes. This is okay. Berlin's not that bad. Beijing, Rome. Tokyo is still I could see. I'd pay $1,100 a month to live in Tokyo. Paris, I wouldn't pay that much to live in Paris. No way. 1,200, nah. Sydney, it's pretty high. I wouldn't pay that much for these cities. Way too high. Making ends meet. Lengthy home lab trips with daily nauseance for Gary McDonald during his postdoc. He traveled from Providence, Rhode Island to Boston, a trip of at least an hour each way. McDonald and his husband has rented a single room in a 2-bedroom apartment in Cambridge. Wow. They rented a single room in a 2-bedroom apartment. Wow. Massachusetts for $1,300 a month. But they discovered that they could have a whole apartment in Providence for the same price. Wow. This is huge. This is out of control. It's a brain drain. People can't afford to live anywhere where they're studying now. Focus on a housing market correction could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is from Business Daily. Business Day, where are you from, Business Day? I saw this earlier. New Zealand. This is a good intro to this article. Yes, Danny Moore. Danny Moore is commenting, yeah, but the Chinese aren't the only ones on it that are capitalizing on it. There's lots of foreign investors. There's a lot of wealthy people coming in from Saudi Arabia that feel that things are going south in their kingdom. There's a lot of people coming in from different parts of the world. Russia, Kuwait. A lot of people leaving Kuwait. So it's free markets, okay? And I've been talking about this for a while now. It's a free market. So what's been happening is the free market in the English-speaking countries is no longer working. They got to fix it. Because all these countries where you like, come in, spend your money here, they're not spending it to open companies to create jobs. They're not spending it to open mining companies to create jobs. They're not spending it to fabricate and export. They're spending it on real estate. And that's what the problem is. And that's what's happening. Australia is seeing the same thing. New Zealand saying the same thing. London, England, London, UK seeing the same thing. Canada and United States, they're all seeing the same thing. And this is... yeah, many whom I know personally became obsessed with real estate. Many people started thinking real estate is a golden goose, more like an investment. Yeah, so they're making housing into a commodity. They're making housing into something like you would buy like in the stock market. You know what I'm saying? Buy and sell. But people forgot the importance of laying roots, starting a family. Everyone's starting their family so late. Everyone's having kids late. I'm one of them too. Okay, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I started my family when I was 36 years old. Okay, I'm 39 now. I kind of wished I started my family 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You know, but everyone's delaying on having kids. Everyone's delaying on getting married. Everyone's delaying on housing now to get a roof over their head. People are working 3 jobs just to cover the rent. Okay. And things are out of control. And the more and more this happens, the more and more we get left behind. Technology-wise, we're moving ahead, but we're falling behind humanity-wise. Man, I should coin that term. Technology, we're moving ahead, but we're falling behind humanity-wise. Mike Martins. Yeah, I'm going to coin that. But that's what's happening. Yep, it looks like Toronto women are starting at 40 when I see them interviewed about their housing situation. You know, a lot of people starting at 40, you know, that's, you know. I met my wife when I was 34, so that was good. You know, I wasn't 40, you know. Media coverage of New Zealand's housing market cooling could turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy, economists said. BNZ has released a new research note in which it highlighted the turnaround in house prices. Auckland's prices have been stalled, and in some parts of the city, values have started to slip back. Yes. Yes. Because there's a lot of meth-damaged homes in the lower income brackets, and you have to get a meth test done on your homes in New Zealand because of the toxic damage done in the... It's a $200, I think it is, New Zealand dollars, to do a meth test on the house. It's very important that you get that done if you're living down New Zealand. Other parts of the country, such as Hamilton, Tauranga, seen growth slowly significantly, although many smaller regions still have values increasing quickly. But with Auckland's large whitening nationwide, housing price inflation is expected to fall further. He said that the new housing data made headlines. It generated more negative sentiment and could drive prices further down. It's called people panicking, okay? It's people wanting to catch their golden goose. Importantly, the recent decline in Auckland's house prices is now getting significant media coverage. This can be self-fulfilling to the extent that folk fearful of the market might correct are more likely to withdraw from it. Buyers, that is. The sellers would either delist their properties, simply not sell, or, if under pressure, accept the lowest price that might otherwise be the case, he said. It's going to be a disaster. Because a lot of people will be underwater. They're writing this article as if these people are free and clear. Like, these people don't have a mortgage. They, oh, man, it's going up. Oh, I'm going to sell it. I'll get this for it. It's fine. Yeah, you get this for it. It's fine if you own the property free and clear. But 70% of that country is mortgaged to the tits. We still think a genuine excess demand will underwrite the Auckland housing market, but equally, the prospect of a reasonable correction in price grows by the day. From a Reserve Bank perspective, housing market developments will certainly play its lower for longer rate strategy. So that's what's happening in New Zealand. Less and less people showing up for auctions. Less and less people turning out for open houses. Less and less people, you know. It's looking bad. It's Someone's asking me, Mike, if you had leverage on setting policy, what would you like to do? One, I will never get leverage to set policy, but one thing I would do, if I could set policy, it'd be tough. It'd be really tough because right now we're in a hell of a mess. And a lot of people, everybody knows a way out. Everyone could figure out a strategy, but what would actually work? I think the banking system is failing because they're letting people in without checking backgrounds, where money's coming from they're not doing their job. What I would do is I would get one province in Canada and I would federalize the bank. Screw it, one bank. I know this sounds very, very, very communist, but there'll be no bullcrap on the books. The underwriters will know how to underwrite a deal, and they won't push people into products they don't need and giving them insurances they don't need and bullcrap this and bullcrap that. This way, there's more of a protection for the consumer and making sure people are being set up with the right product when they're walking into a bank and making sure that people, all money that comes in needs to be disclosed exactly where it came from, and tightening a lot of open and loose, firing a lot of people that are basically lying about incomes, lying about their T4s, getting rid of all that. If the banking system could clamp down and actually be more organized, I see a huge correction almost overnight, because then you're not going to have these bad deals go on. You're not going to have people pushed into products they can't afford. You're going to, I remember there was a bank teller telling, a lender telling one of the guy that was borrowing the money, the customer, Oh, just get a second job and you'll be able to cover this. Really? That's the advice you want to give your clients? Get a second job and you can pay this loan off? Someone's saying, yeah, vacant tax, 10% property. But you know, in Paris, vacant tax, here, I'll show you guys so you know I'm not lying. Watch this, people. Vacant homes are a global epidemic, and Paris is fighting it with a 60% tax. Now, that's hard hitting in your face. If that's not hard hitting in your face, then I don't know what is. 60% tax. But mind you, they have 107,000 vacant homes. That's huge. 107,000 homes not paying for cable, internet, electricity, water. That's huge on the economy. So that's what Paris is charging for vacant tax. Someone else said, let me see here. Oh, for sure. Canadian's commenting here. Canadian gives some really good comments here. Mike, go to U.S. debt clock, remove world, and put Canada. I saw this here. Canada's debt, GDP, we're the worst performing country out of every country in the list. Yeah, so Danny Moore is saying, add more mortgage stress tests. Yeah, cut people's TDS back. When people are filling out an application in the bank, for example, and their total debt service ratio is right on par, don't give them the deal. Because if they miss a day or 2 days of work, they're going to miss a monthly payment. That's how close it is. Also include cell phone bills, car insurance, include all that other crap into expenses, because for some reason the banks think that you get that money from heaven. That money falls from heaven to pay your car insurance. And car insurance ain't cheap. Sometimes it's as much money as some people's rent. But they have to include that in your debt load. Anyways, I'm jumping all over the place. So that's what France is charging for housing, for vacant tax. And World Debt Clock, I can show you this. I can show this to you guys here. It's got all the countries on here. I did a documentary in Portuguese about this, how all these rich countries claim to be rich and this and that, and we're such a rich country, but in the reality of it, they're in more debt than anything else. So let's look at countries in debt. Oh, I love this. So there's Canada there. The most indebted countries that I realized is Italy, Japan, France. Where's England? England's up there too. Those countries, and I'll tell you why those countries are the most indebted. Why? And I've noticed this kind of feeling out the markets and kind of seeing what's been going on. I realized that the countries that won and lost World War II are heavily in debt. Basically, free market, banking systems, and that's why all the countries that won World War II and lost World War II are in this enormous problem right now. So let's hit Canada here. So that's $1,067,457,000,000. And look at the GDP. Debt as GDP. Yeah, we're one of the worst. Yeah. So each citizen is 29 large in debt. Interest per year, 26 billion. 389 million. So, but that's nothing close to other countries. Like I know the US is 20 trillion. That's no. But look at Germany, such a rich country. Look at this. The other day, I had this big discussion on my Portuguese channel. I was talking to a Portuguese radio station in Mozambique. I was live. It was 2 o'clock in the morning here. And I was live with them on the radio and stuff. And we're discussing and stuff. And I brought up an article where Germany lent Mozambique, I don't know how many millions of dollars to pay back at this high interest rate. How the hell does Germany have money to lend Mozambique when they're that much in debt? And that's what I was talking. I brought that up. We were discussing that for about half an hour on the radio, and that was a big deal. They were just, yeah, they're like, Mike, you're right. What's going on here? Why is this happening? Anyways, I don't want to stray too much off topic. Yes, Canada's doing really bad when it comes to world markets. And so that was New Zealand. New Zealand looks like it's going here. And who else is looking at stagnation? So the places looking at stagnation is New Zealand and Toronto, the city of Toronto, and UK, London. London is doing pretty bad. London is pretty bad. And I wanted to... Contaminating tap water is an excellent population control method. Yeah, but we're doing fluoride in the water for decades. It's nothing new. I'll take Auckland weather over Toronto. Sure, why not? But remember, Southern Hemisphere, sometimes it gets pretty cold in the winter. London, Britain's housing market has slowed significantly in recent months, a trend that would be welcome to prospective homebuyers and less welcome to those trying to sell. Yes, people. I wanted to put this out there because I know London is facing official land registry data shows that the annual house price growth in the UK is 5.6% in June. That may still sound like a roaring market, but the growth is down from 8% last year. Yes, you guys should know. Look at this. Activity is also slowing. The Royal Institution Chartered Surveyors monthly UK residential market survey described the market as stagnant in May. So another one. So they're saying Brexit is one of the leading cause of the market. Mortgage constraints. Regulation is designed that people don't overstretch themselves. You should put this in the beginning. You're gonna put now regulations now that it's like buying an alarm for your house after it gets robbed. Oh, I got robbed, so I'm gonna buy an alarm for my house. Why don't they put these regulations at the beginning? What's next for the market? So we'll see what happens in London, and we'll see what happens in London. England, because I know England is really stagnant. So is New Zealand. So somebody from Portland sent me this from Oregon, and people are homeless in Portland, and there's a lot of professionals. I'm talking about people not with art degrees. I mean engineers and stuff that are living in villages. They're setting up these little villages, building these tiny homes, setting up a little solar panel here like they have here, and they're living off grid. Advocates say that homeless villages offer residents what shelters can't: a sense of safety and a chance to reconnect. So this is becoming these little villages are actually popping up all over Oregon and Northern California. Not tent cities, not to be confused with tent cities. It actually means that they're building towns in these little forests, like the pioneers did. Stake out a piece of land and build a house on it. And that's exactly what these people are doing. Portland, Oregon, helping build the homeless village where he lives has given Bob Brimmer's life focus, he says. More than that, living there has helped him heal from the tough childhood, included stays in homeless shelters in upstate New York. My dad died when I was in 9th grade from a drug-induced heart attack, and then my mom lived in Section 8 housing, said Brimmer at 23, who has an associate's degree in math and science. Brimmer's income would have spiked his mother's rent if he hadn't stayed with her. Since the cost of her federally subsidized apartment was based on her household's ability to pay, Brimmer saw it as a reason to leave. He started couch surfing with friends, but they lost their apartments. Wow, this is so sad. So he used his last tax return to buy a 3-day Greyhound ticket to Portland. He had no place to stay when he got there. Brimmer wears trimmed reddish beard and dreadlocks, which he pulls back into a ponytail. He favors jeans on work or work pants, paints backstage. Okay, when I first came here, I kind of fell into the trap of just getting drunk every night. I've got like $6. That's two pretty powerful drinks. So that's basically the community here. And it actually looks like it's got a fence. It's got like a legitimate wow, it's almost like the Wild West. Look at these sink. Wow. Little tiny homes. Look at that. Look, this one even has a pretty cool garden in the front. And these people are setting these things up for winter. You could tell they're putting insulation on them. Yep. So this is a really good long story. I'm going to leave you guys with this too. It's really good. And it's really long too. It's really good. With California housing prices surging, developers say they can't build enough homes. But with the amount of empty homes in California, why is this happening? California is also out of control. I know CoreLogic report revealed prices for single-family attached and detached homes rose 5.8% between May 2016 and May 2017. Los Angeles County saw an even bigger bump of 6.4%, falling slightly short of nationwide percent increase of 6.6%. Again, California being plagued with housing crisis. So I'm going to leave you guys. This is the last article here. Is there another credit crunch coming? This is a really good article from yesterday. And they keep bringing up 2007, 2008. And no one's paid attention to 2007, 2008 lately. I don't know why. You know, it's out of control. It's people's borrowing is just beyond their means of repayback. I just can't see a lot of people paying. I see a lot of people having to default to correct the problem. But I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope people could find ways to get things together. You know, I have a friend working at the Australia Credit Help Center, and he's an operator there talking to people with credit problems and can't make their payments. Because obviously suicide rates go up and everything goes up and people start to worry that they can't cover their nut. And it becomes very scary when you know you can't cover your nut. It says, Manzella says, credit crunch looks possible in Latin America. Temer and Marcy do not look like the strong men that can take people's rights and get the countries mobilized. That's Portuguese America, people. Brazil. Why do millennials have to pay more for housing when there are less of us? Don't Gen X's want to downsize? I don't want to downsize. I want a big house, man. I want rooms. I want rooms that go into rooms. I want rooms that go nowhere. You know, everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves, you know, that part of life. Everyone deserves it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you work 2 jobs. Back in the early 80s, if you told people you work 2 jobs, they'll look at you like, holy crap, you work 2 jobs? What are you buying, an airplane? Or are you buying 5 homes at a time? Now, you work 2 jobs, like, whatever, I work 3. It's like, really? Yeah, that's what it's gotten to. And I don't know. I just wanted to put this out there and let me know what you guys think on these articles. It's Bank of England is right here. Bank of England concerned about consumer credit. Why do they keep lending out credit when they know these people can't pay it back? You know, I know they create these debt-backed securities with bad loans and stuff. I know they make money off bad debt. I get it. But when is enough enough? When can they say, could we stop playing with people's lives? Could we stop screwing with people's lives and start helping people instead of pretending or band-aiding the situation? Because that's exactly looks like what is happening. They're band-aiding, kicking the can down the road, and nothing gets resolved. Anyways, guys, I'm tired, man. I'm going to hit the hay. I got a bit of work to do tomorrow at the shop. Don't forget to watch my series, Starting a Business from Scratch. I have a feeling when these big box stores start filing for bankruptcy, that you see a lot of mom and pop shops coming back, paint stores coming back, hardware stores coming back. You'll see children's like infant stores, like with selling what do you call those things? Strollers, and selling children's clothing and stuff. I have a feeling that a lot of the mom and pop shops are going to come back soon with all these stores going bankrupt. Anyways, guys, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this transmission with all your friends, and get them on here commenting. And I would like to also get a Skype phone here and a speakerphone so people could call into the show and we could discuss what you have on your mind and maybe whatever you have on your chest, and just let it all out. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and big hug to everyone. Goodbye.